trampled on every day at school. Even the girl he liked left with the bullies. But life was cruel. He met Truck Kun and ended up reincarnating as Lucas Ryan, in a world where magic is worshipped and martial artists are despised. But Lucas became a genius at the academy, in a world where magic is supreme. On the magic continent of Arcanus, an annual event was about to begin. A man announced to the crowd that today they would perform the divine blessing. Children under 6 would offer their most precious possessions to the gods. If accepted, a divine messenger would be sent. He explained that this spirit would sense the child's magical element, granting them the chance to become a mage. A boy asked his mother if he could learn magic by offering a piece of candy, but she believed it needed to be expensive jewelry, like the nobles had. A noblewoman showed off her precious stone, claiming that the more valuable the offering, the higher the chance of a blessing. A man commented he heard the Ryan family spent their entire fortune for this blessing. Another added it would be tragic if they weren't blessed after all that effort. Holt Ryan, the family head, knew he had gambled heavily on everyone's future. He was certain his children, Laika and Louis Ryan, would receive top-tier blessings. The master of ceremonies called the next on the list. He loudly announced the name Julia Ryan. The young girl approached and placed a small crown on the altar. A formation appeared on the ground, and the MC wondered what it could be. He questioned if this was the blessing of Kahai, the thunder god. It was level 7. 12 years had passed since they had seen such a high level. Her father celebrated his daughter's incredible talent, claiming their family had been chosen. The girl regained consciousness, not understanding what had happened. Her mother remarked that the offering didn't seem valuable enough to cost the family fortune. One guest reminded another that one child was still left, and he would offer the legendary treasure. Holt knelt before Lucas, telling him he was next, and the boy agreed. An older man handed him a sword to be accepted. In the crowd, people reacted to the energy radiating from the blade. A figure manifested behind the boy, identified as Vulcanus, the fire god. His little sister wished her big brother good luck. The MC realized that by offering something so valuable, the Ryan family head was betting everything on the boy. Lucas walked toward the altar to make his offering. Outside, the sky changed color, and people wondered what was happening. The boy's father had never seen anything like it, and wondered if this was level 9. The youth stood in the center of the altar. The sword floated in the air as the boy watched. Then, he noticed intense energy surging into his hand. Light spread up his arm, engulfing it completely. Another figure was now holding the sword. Outside, someone commented that the sky had returned to normal. Holt questioned if the blessing was over and where the divine spirit was. His youngest daughter looked toward the altar. Lucas was repelled from the altar, falling to the ground where he remained motionless. The MC and his family called out to him. His parents rushed over, begging him to wake up. The MC stated that the god had rejected him. He declared that Lucas Ryan had been abandoned by the progenitor of magic. As the family supported him, light descended from the ceiling towards someone else. In the realm of the fire god, a voice echoed with discontent. The entity was annoyed that the Ryan family had offered an ancient power. He observed the blade and swore he would never forgive them. His servants praised his decision to only reject the child's offering. One spirit noticed an otherworldly presence had entered the boy's body and asked if it should be removed too. The fire god replied there was no need to waste time on a being from another world. He turned to the other offering, calling it a fine piece. A soul found itself wrapped in energy. Within it, an eye opened. In the celestial source realm of the martial god, a man emerged. He focused on his goal. With a single movement, he overcame a barrier. He advanced through space. A cosmic creature addressed him as the power source governing this world. The man simply asked if the creature sought to block his path to a higher dimension. A cosmic creature attacked with a blast, trying to contain him, but the man pressed forward and unleashed his energy directly. The impact easily overwhelmed the creature. He turned as the being dissipated into a large vortex. He now faced a newly formed portal. The martial god stated that power source was nothing special. A small creature flew toward him, calling him Lord Martial God. He grabbed it, asking why his attendant spirit was obstructing him. Then he sensed that his old partner, Reku, was no longer present. The spirit showed an image, and he wondered what was happening on the Arcanus continent. He remembered that 1,000 years ago martial arts were stronger, but now the fire god Vulcanus was worshipped. The spirit commented on the current situation. Even so, he claimed that spreading martial arts was a heavy burden. He had no interest in developing them, yet he acknowledged the duty to pass them on. A small being like him had to dedicate himself constantly to training. His presence then dissolved into a point of light. A new consciousness awoke, confused about its situation. Opening his eyes, he questioned what that was. He saw himself surrounded by several identical figures. The boy remained lying in bed. The creatures introduced themselves as Mars, the martial god, and announced they would grant him a blessing. They continued to float around the youth's bed, Then, they all flew toward him. The boy reacted to their approach. A light fired out and hit him. He received the level 9 martial god blessing, and the limit on martial arts training was removed. Sitting up in bed, the youth questioned what that martial god and level 9 stuff was about. He remembered the spirits he saw were incredibly strong. He looked at his hands, wondering what was happening. Then he recalled the accident and questioned why he was here. The memories of Lucas Ryan invaded his mind. He wondered if the gods were just messing with him. He realized he was in a new situation, fearing this life would be difficult. He thought of his mother and Azusa, who would now go on with their lives, but he still didn't understand what martial arts meant regarding the blessing he received. A lollipop fell to the floor beside the bed. The sound made him look toward the door. A little girl entered the room and called for her big brother. She ran and hugged him on the bed. The girl said she heard he would take a long time to wake up and was very worried. He comforted her, asking her not to cry anymore. Recognizing her as Julia, Lucas's sister, he remembered Azusa, who must have been shaken by what happened. He then decided he would protect the people precious to him in this life, counting on the martial god's help. An angelic statue stands prominent on an altar in the center of a grand hall. Suddenly, a dark liquid begins to weep from the statue's eyes. The stone figure cries the dark substance, offering up its stained hands. A woman remarks that the detestable man's presence has vanished. She wonders if he died or simply left this world. Clutching a symbol on her chest, she laments having so little power left. The woman then rises amidst a dark substance. She declares that with him out of the way, this world will soon be theirs. 9 years later, peace reigns at the Ryan family estate. Lucas notices the weather has cleared and assumes Julia's training must be over. He decides to go meet her, but a massive thorn bush blocks his path. Suddenly, the thorns wrap around him, hoisting him into the air. Lucas wonders who would pull a prank like this again. He turns and identifies the culprit as Jeremy. Jeremy Ryan greets him as Lucas, the child abandoned by the gods. Behind him, a maid expresses surprise that Lucas hasn't been kicked out yet. Jeremy reminds Lucas that this backyard is reserved for the family's mages. He suggests that maybe Lucas will learn his lesson if he suffers some consequences, but Lucas warns him that his sister is finishing her magic training and will return any second. He advises Jeremy to let him go, unless he wants to get blasted by her lightning. Jeremy calls him a coward for hiding behind his sister, stammering that he's not afraid of a little lightning. At that exact moment, a bolt strikes him square in the chest. The maid screams for her master, who is now lying on the ground, smoking. Lucas turns to see Julia approaching the gate. Young Julia warns Jeremy that she won't go easy on him if he bullies her brother again. She puffs out her cheeks in a huff. Then she turns to her brother and says she'll get those thorns off him right away. Once down, he pats his sister's head, and she smiles up at him. Lucas keeps his hand on her head and asks Jeremy if he's learned his lesson. Jeremy just stares, unable to respond. Without a second thought, he turns and flees with the maid. Lucas comments on how fast Jeremy is running and notes that she went easy on him with that last shock. Julia asks why he didn't fight back since he could defeat him. He reminds her that his true strength is a secret between them. He pats her head again, saying she's there to protect him, and she readily agrees. As they walk toward the mansion, he reflects on the 9 years that have passed since he reincarnated into Lucas's body. He recalls the day he woke up. Lucas's father, Holt, visited him, making him believe he'd be expelled for failing to meet expectations. Instead, Holt embraced him, saying he was just happy Lucas had woken up safely. Even though he leads an order of knights and is rarely home, Holt is a good father who genuinely cares about his children. When Holt discovered Lucas had started training in martial arts, he immediately sent a letter with useful information. The letter informed him that the family archives held ancient martial arts books that could help. Lucas descends a dark corridor, lighting the way with a candle. Thanks to that letter, he was able to put a certain audacious plan into action. Back in the present, a maid calls for young Master Lucas outside the mansion. One maid wonders where he went, but the other says not to worry. He'll be expelled soon anyway. Suddenly, the two maids are startled by something they see. One asks if the other has felt the ground shaking. Her companion suggests it might just be someone practicing earth magic. Meanwhile, deep in an underground cave, a fist smashes through a stone wall. Lucas steps back from the rubble, wiping sweat from his face. He looks at the passage he's dug. It should be enough to reach the archives. He spent 6 months digging to build this secret training ground, divided into a study area, a training zone, and storage. He had to improvise a cheap tub for a bathroom since he spent all his money equipping the other sections. He's trained here secretly every day since finishing it. Currently, he's relaxing in a medicinal bath, claiming it's the most efficient way to train martial arts. It's been 3 years since he started training with the chaotic tempering technique he found in the archives. He rises from the tub, revealing that now, magic attacks of level 5 or lower don't even scratch him. With his defense finally taking shape, He turns to focus on offense. He approaches a training dummy, sword in hand, and executes a rapid series of strikes with the broadsword. He also trains with a long spear. Finally, he steps back from the training dummy, which is now completely destroyed. Having reached level 4 in his spear technique, he decides to practice his fist techniques a bit more today. His skills have steadily improved over the last 9 years, but one thing still bothers him. According to the books, martial artists hit a limit that can only be broken by achieving enlightenment. But this enlightenment is so difficult to attain that most give up. That's why so few train in martial arts. He turns to a large training barrel and declares that he is different. He delivers a powerful punch straight into the barrel, causing it to completely explode on impact. He has reached level 5 in his fist technique. His levels just keep rising with no apparent limit. He realizes this must be what they call a divine blessing. Back in his room, he remembers Holt is returning home tonight for a family dinner. He walks down the hall toward the large dining room doors. Upon opening them, he finds his entire family already seated at the table. Holt greets him, mentioning it's been 6 months since they last saw each other, and invites him to sit. Holt informs Lucas that the Allen Magic Academy is opening a special martial arts department and that he has already enrolled him. He acknowledges that martial arts are difficult but knows Lucas can succeed. He warns that the entrance exam is next week. Lucas simply thanks his father. Lucas reflects that he needs to get stronger, but he can't stand out too much or he'll cause trouble. Julia then raises her hand and tells their father she wants to attend Allen Magic Academy with Lucas. Holt explains it's a good goal, but she's only 11. Julia retorts that the elite class has no age restrictions. She reveals she has actually already received an offer for the elite class. Holt just stares at her, pondering this information. He comments to his wife that Julia's reputation as a genius must have reached the academy, and that a great mage might be born into the family. While Julia giggles, Lucas comments that it's amazing, leaving Jeremy visibly annoyed. A relative says they will pray for both to pass, but Jeremy asks why Lucas is getting special treatment. Suddenly, Jeremy is startled by a voice telling him to calm down. A hand touches his face, and the voice repeats that there's no need to worry. Jessica Ryan, Jeremy's mother, reassures him, saying it's not guaranteed that Lucas will pass the exam anyway. A week later, the day arrived to leave for the Magic Academy. The family said their goodbyes at the estate gates. Julia's mother told them to take care. She promised to visit soon with their favorite pudding. Then, she reminded them not to forget the lucky coin their father had given them. The coin was from the Buon dynasty, 10,000 years ago. Their father had won it after subjugating a magical beast. Holt showed them the coin. He explained that the engraved face was Mars, the first emperor. Lucas recognized him instantly. He told them to always keep it with them as a lucky charm. Lucas held the coin tight. He felt lucky to have a good family in both of his lives. With a final wave, Julia said goodbye, and they finally set off. A few hours later, the coachman announced the sunset. He said they should camp in the clearing ahead. Around the campfire, a man named Forden explained their schedule. They would arrive at Allen Academy by nightfall the next day. Julia asked Mr. Forden if there was anything interesting in Daku City. He nodded, mentioning the annual Magic Dodgeball tournament. Mr. Forden added that the city was also famous for being a gastronomic hub. Lucas noticed his sister Julia was already drooling. Suddenly, he sensed movement from the darkness of the forest. He detected 12 horses and 13 people approaching fast, just 2 kilometers away. He asked Forden if there were bandits in the area. The man replied that the chances were low. His chaotic tempering technique had given him sharpened senses. He was certain he wasn't imagining things. With only 5 of them and a child in the group, he knew they needed to be careful. He stood up and warned them. A mysterious group was coming quickly, and they needed to get into formation. Forden couldn't hear anything, and wondered what young Master Lucas was talking about, but he quickly changed his mind. He ordered the guards to ready their weapons immediately. He didn't know where Lucas got the information, but decided it was better to be safe than sorry. Just then, a group of bandits on horseback charged through the forest. The guards spotted the riders, confirming their presence. The bandit leader saw them. He celebrated that the boss was right about the place being full of nobles. One of them commented that the little girl and the boy next to her would yield a good ransom. Forden confronted them. He asked if they had any idea what happens to those who mess with nobles. The bandit leader simply ordered his men to attack everyone except the 2 children. The bandits advanced. One of the guards ran to provide cover for Mr. Forden. A bandit charged on horseback, raising his sword to strike, but a guard intercepted him, hitting him with a spear. The bandit leader watched his companion fall. Forden entered the battle, moving quickly with his sword. He told Miss Julia to leave the situation to him. With a single blow, He rushed forward and took down several bandits. He turned and yelled for young Master Lucas to grab Julia and run. Lucas turned sharply, hearing the sound of an attack. One of the bandits cast a fire spell on the remaining guards. The leader realized they had a mage. Surprising Forden, he shouted for the two to run into the forest while he took down another enemy, but a bandit attacked him from behind, striking him. Lucas turned in time to see it and screamed Forden's name. The man stood up, wounded and surrounded by enemies. The bandit leader promised to burn him for defeating his companion. Forden prepared for battle. He declared he would protect the young master and the young lady, even if it cost him his life. Lucas knew Forden was only a level 2 martial artist. He couldn't beat a mage. Lucas wanted to keep his true strength a secret, but he couldn't. He remembered how Forden had been kinder to him than anyone else, becoming practically family. He couldn't stand by and watch his family be attacked. He told Julia to hide. He knelt down and told her he was going to help Forden. His sister agreed and asked him to be careful. Lucas ran toward the combat. Meanwhile, Forden exchanged blows with the bandit. He fell to his knees, struggling to stay upright. The bandit leader raised his sword to deliver the final blow. Suddenly, the attackers fell. Forden looked back, surprised by what had just happened. The other bandits wondered what that was. 2 fast projectiles hit 2 bandits. Then, a barrage of projectiles took down several other men at once. A small flame formed in Lucas's hand. He commented that his Gale Strike had reached level 4. Defeating level 1 bandits was a piece of cake. One of the bandits despaired, asking who the hell did that to his companions. The leader realized they had all been defeated in an instant. He prepared one last attack, screaming that he was taking the old man with him. A large fireball was launched directly at Forden. With no strength to dodge, Forden thanked whoever had helped, knowing the children would live. He closed his eyes and thanked the heavens, but Lucas jumped in front of him to intercept the imminent attack. The youth advanced directly against the fireball. Forden watched him, unable to believe his eyes. After the smoke cleared, Lucas was standing there. Forden called out to him as young master. The bandit leader was surprised to see his fireball completely negated. He tried to counterattack with another spell. Lucas simply stated that he was already finished. With a single punch, Lucas charged and hit the bandit leader squarely. The impact instantly defeated the man, and Lucas landed on the horse. Forden watched him pull away and asked how he did that. Smiling, he turned and said he seemed to have a talent for martial arts. The older man could only call out for the young master. Suddenly, a dark mass began to sprout from the ground behind them. The creature rose completely, revealing its skeletal face. The monster ordered Lucas Ryan and Jeremy Ryan to die. Lucas stared at the thing in front of him. He decided he needed to defeat the monster quickly. Jeremy jumped into the air toward the creature. He struck the monster's head with a blow. Lucas watched his companion's action. Elsewhere, a man punched the ground. Energy rushed through the soil from his fist. Chains emerged from the earth and trapped a man. Back at the fight, Lucas wondered what kind of thing that was. A symbol manifested in the creature's eye. He questioned if that was what was controlling the dead. The monster opened its enormous mouth. Jeremy said that if his normal attacks didn't work, he would try another approach. Jeremy hit the monster with both hands. Lucas prepared to attack the creature. He extended his palm forward. He hit the symbol in the monster's eye directly. A beam of energy tore through the creature and the forest. The monster was completely disintegrated by the attack. Lucas stood still as the creature's silhouette disappeared. He fell to the ground exhausted while Julia called him. Turning, he saw her running toward him. Julia hugged him and asked if he had defeated all the villains. Jeremy watched the scene, wondering what had just happened. Lucas heard a noise and looked to the side. A horse neighed in the forest. Someone was mounted on the horse. Maya Rasta was tied atop the animal. In a cave, several men were imprisoned. The cult hostess questioned who managed to eliminate number 44. Then, she stated that restoring her own power was the main priority. Back in the forest, Julia confirmed the girl's name was Maya Rasta. Lucas commented that he felt he had heard the name Rasta somewhere before. Sitting next to Maya, Julia said she had the same feeling. Lucas explained that the Rasta and Ryan families were noble houses living near Daku City. Julia finally remembered. She asked Maya how she ended up being attacked by those bandits. Maya began to recount that a few hours earlier, bandits had suddenly attacked her carriage. In her memory, one of the bandits was laughing. She continued, saying her guards were defeated one after another, and her lady-in-waiting was attacked while trying to protect her. Maya explained that it didn't matter how many times she said she was a noble. One of the men just stared at her. She concluded by saying their goal was just to kidnap the children of nobles. Lucas told them everything was fine now, as they were all defeated. He remained silent for a moment. Forden approached and informed the young master that Miss Maya and Miss Julia had gone to rest. Lucas called him over and asked for his opinion on what Maya had said earlier. Forden asked if he meant the fact that those bandits were professionals. He stated they had likely been targeting noble children for some time. Lucas added that they were bandits who could use magic and had bizarre power to control the dead. Forden looked to the side. The young master concluded that there seemed to be a terrifying demon behind everything. Forden said he would report this to the master immediately. If they informed the Rasta family about Maya's situation, they would likely get their cooperation too. Lucas agreed and said he had a suggestion to avoid further trouble. The next day, in Daku City, Julia was surprised to learn they were canceling the plan to stay and tour the city. Lucas explained that some of yesterday's bandits might still be in the city. For safety, it was better to go straight to the Magic Academy. He asked her to try to understand, as it was for her and Maya's safety. Maya agreed with what he said. Julia and Lucas sat together inside the carriage. Lucas looked at his sister. He promised Julia he would buy whatever she wanted to eat later. Maya commented on how well the two got along, and Forden announced they had arrived in the city. Julia and her brother stuck their heads out the carriage window. They both looked at the city around them. She was impressed by the view of the city streets. The streets were full of people and establishments. A man commented that this was the largest city after the imperial capital. Maya also looked out the window and said the place was very lively. The three observed the city together. Lucas observed the scenery. He stated that the atmosphere of that city was similar to the city where he lived in his past life. A man dressed as a clown appeared at the window and scared the girls. Lucas bought various breads and sweets for them. Maya offered one of the sweets to Julia. The boy watched the scene. Forden took them to a large gate and said he could only accompany them that far. Lucas reassured him, stating that he would protect Julia. The girl hugged him and said she would protect him too. He patted her head and said he was counting on the genius mage. She replied that he could leave it to her. Forden watched the scene. Maya commented that he had his little sister to protect him, finding him an interesting guy. The butler watched the three walk away toward the gate. Maya thought about how kind the two siblings were. Lucas also reflected that he was happy to have met them. Maya looked at him. Back to the previous night, Forden suddenly remembered something. He revealed to Lucas that Miss Maya had once been his fiancée. They were very close when they were little, but the engagement was broken off after the priest stated he had no talent for magic. Allen Magic Academy is one of the Sarmina Empire's top 3 schools. Every new student has to pass an entrance exam. The results decide which of the 4 departments they'll join for their 6 years of mage training. Lucas explains to Julia that exceptional students can graduate early by passing a special certification exam. He glances away for a moment. Julia says it's a shame. She hoped to take the entrance exam with Maya. Lucas mentions that Maya already took her exam earlier with her family and is safe now. He encourages her to focus so they can join Maya as classmates. Julia agrees and asks where registration is. The young girl's presence draws attention. A bystander asks if she's really a candidate. Another comments on how young she looks, while a third praises her brother's appearance. As Julia grabs Lucas's arm, someone else remarks they wish they had a sister like her. A voice calls out to them from the crowd. The woman introduces herself as Mina, vice president of the Academy's student council. Mina asks Julia if she came just to follow her brother. The girl denies it, stating she's there to take the exam with him. Mina checks Julia's application, hypothesizing that she's the girl offered a spot in the elite class. Mina smiles faintly. She confirms the girl is Julia from the Ryan family. Julia asks how the woman knows her name. Mina replies that she'll find out soon and starts guiding her to the registration area, momentarily leaving Lucas behind. But the girl stops her, saying her brother needs to register too. The vice president turns back, admitting she forgot. She asks Lucas if he's there for the martial arts department. Voices in the crowd question the idea of a martial artist attending a magic academy. At Allen Academy, some mages look down on martial artists. Julia reacts to the comments. The murmurs continue, comparing martial artists to nobodies. Lucas turns his head, stating their opinions don't matter. Mina hears his declaration. She realizes she shouldn't have mentioned his department out loud. Another voice calls Lucas's name. Mina addresses him, inviting him to register so they can head to the exam hall. Lucas smiles and thanks her. They arrive at a large hall packed with candidates. Mina instructs everyone to register with a student council member and hands out badges. With badges in hand, they are informed their exam numbers are stored within them. The exam has 3 parts: measuring magical potential, attribute compatibility, and power against a target. Lucas asks if the process is the same for martial arts candidates. Mina confirms the exam is identical for everyone. The young man shows his dissatisfaction with the explanation. He claps his hands together, saying he understands. He then declares he'll show everyone a martial artist's power and change their perception. At the potential measurement station, an examiner announces the start of the first test. The examiner watches Lucas approach the gauge. Suddenly, the man reacts, claiming he's never seen anything like this, a rare phenomenon. When he places his hand on the gauge, Lucas's result is low. The screen shows he'll struggle to enter even the martial arts department. He sighs, lamenting that this is happening again. Next, another candidate approaches and places her hand on the gauge. Two candidates react in surprise at her result. Her potential is 7 out of 10, ranking her as one of the year's best students. Lucas watches from the crowd, thinking everyone is easily impressed. He tells Julia not to hold back today, and she confirms. The examiner watches as the girl concentrates her power on the gauge. The device in her hands begins to emit strong energy. The energy expands, filling the entire exam hall. The examiner announces the result is 10, the maximum value. Her talent is considered incredible. Another student took 2 years to reach that same level. She holds the gauge with the final result. Julia finishes the test and heads toward Lucas, calling for her brother. She hugs him, asking if it was good. He replies that she'll become an archmage one day. A spectator comments on the contrast between genius and lack of talent, but is interrupted by a colleague. The young man advises him not to start trouble with a genius over someone with no ability. Julia shifts her stance, warning that she won't accept anyone mistreating her brother. For the last 3 years, all of Lucas's hard work had a purpose. Candidates gathered in a circular hall for the compatibility test. Elemental spirits of various natures suddenly appeared throughout the room. A surprised candidate pointed, drawing everyone's attention. Julia stood in the center of the hall. Spirits of every element were beginning to gather around her. She smiled as they swirled about her. One candidate whined about not attracting any spirits. Another wondered if Julia had maximum compatibility with every element. Watching from afar, Lucas commented on her impressive talent. Her special ability was amplifying her potential. It was more than enough to pass the entrance exam. An examiner announced that Julia Ryan had the highest compatibility score of all candidates and congratulated her. Immediately, a group approached her, praising her performance and asking to be friends. Julia ran and hugged Lucas from behind, calling out to her brother. He turned and asked what happened. Hiding behind him, she asked why those people were staring at her like that. Lucas patted her head. He explained it was because she was a genius, and she'd be getting a lot of looks like that from now on. He advised her to get used to it gradually. Julia declared she needed to become stronger to protect him. Lucas encouraged that attitude. He also planned to strengthen her mentality to handle the attention. He then noticed 2 men talking in the distance. One commented that Julia's talent could be royalty level, but her useless brother made him dismiss the idea. The other recalled the guy's compatibility score was likely 0, just like in the previous test. Besides, all the spirits had recoiled from him in repulsion the moment he entered the hall. The man continued, mentioning something strange happened at the end of the second test, too. He recounted that the moment Lucas left, part of a fire spirit just fell apart. His friend doubted the story, but Lucas and Julia walked past them at that exact moment. Lucas overheard the conversation and gave a slight smile. He then remembered what really happened during that test. As he walked through the hall, the fire spirits avoided him. Their attitude was particularly hostile, taunting him. When the test ended and he was leaving, one flew right at him. The spirit spat fire directly at him. So, he picked up a small stone and threw it, dissipating the fire spirit's form in the process. He stated that a mere servant of the fire god had no right to act arrogantly around him. Lucas then held Julia's hand and called her to head to the final test. He asked if she could get first place in the next one. The girl replied, yes, as long as he didn't go too hard. With a smile, the young man said he wouldn't get serious, since he planned for her to protect him. They arrived at the Magic Destruction Power Test site. In the center of the arena, a large metal mannequin awaited the candidates. One candidate complained that the genius girl got first place again. Another doubted she could break the mannequin. He stated there was no chance she could do it. The mannequins were made of special metal with defensive enchantments. They could resist any attack below curse rank. Lucas observed the targets, commenting they looked tough. He clenched his fist. It was a good chance to test his level 6 skills. He concluded that getting to use expensive equipment made coming to this school worth it. Suddenly, someone shoved him in the crowd, telling him to stop pushing. A girl pointed at him and ordered him to get in line. She then turned to another candidate. She said useless people should get out of the way The rule was the talentless go to the back. The candidate stared at him. His presence was noticed by the other girl in line. She turned and acted with disdain. She stepped close to Lucas and Julia. She then asked Julia if she was the one who got a 9.6 on the compatibility test. The girl looked down on her. Julia got scared and called for her brother. Lucas protected her while she said the other girl was scary. He asked who she was. The young woman introduced herself as Manhwa Miranda, granddaughter of Duke Miranda. The Miranda family was one of the 3 great families of the Northern Empire. Besides being a clan that had produced a legendary mage, Lucas's mother also belonged to that family. He remembered his mother, Catherine. Lucas realized the girl was his cousin and asked her age. Manhwa replied she was 15, not understanding the question's purpose. Lucas warned her not to stare at him like that, revealing they were cousins. Manhwa reacted with indignation. She declared she'd never heard of a cousin and decided to humiliate him in front of everyone. She then cast a spell directly at him. With the magic activated, she ordered him to perform a humiliating action right there and embarrass himself. But the spell had 0 effect on Lucas. The girl was perplexed by the situation. He then questioned the kind of education the Miranda family offered, using mental magic on a relative she just met. Manhwa couldn't believe her best magic failed. He asked if she really thought she could control a martial artist with that. An examiner called for the next one, Lucas Ryan, and he announced he had to go. Another examiner called for Julia. Manhwa pointed at the girl. She warned her not to get cocky, because she would be first in this test. Lucas looked at the scoreboard. The list showed Julia Ryan in first place, followed by Manhwa Miranda in second. He decided he couldn't let Manhwa take first place from Julia to ensure his own quiet life. Someone then offered Julia candy. Julia tasted the candy and asked what it was and if it was good. Then he slapped her back to help her. She coughed and called him a liar, complaining it wasn't candy but super bitter medicine. Lucas apologized. He explained it was a special magic potion and she would feel the effects soon. He was called to enter and ran to the arena, but Julia yelled that she didn't believe him anymore. He walked toward the metal mannequin where the examiner waited. The examiner instructed number 5 to attack the target with his full-strength magic for evaluation. But before starting, Lucas interrupted. He stated he couldn't use magic. He clenched his fist and asked if he could just hit the target. In the audience, a group of students mocked him, predicting he'd just break his hand. One guy then noticed Lucas's sister standing right next to him. Julia restrained herself. She stated she wasn't attacking them only because her brother asked her to behave. Manhwa turned to her and asked if her brother really couldn't use magic. The girl confirmed he couldn't, but she asserted that he was still an amazing person, and no one had the right to mock him. Her cousin observed her, believing there was a limit to a martial artist's strength, and that Julia was just being deceived. Suddenly, a powerful impact echoed through the arena. Dust rose in front of the crowd. Manhwa reacted to what just happened. She wondered what that was. 2 minutes earlier, Lucas had asked the examiner if just one hit would be enough. The man replied he didn't care how he attacked. Lucas then prepared for his strike. His martial arts skills grew exponentially every 3 levels. His strongest technique received a major boost at level 3. Now that the skill reached level 6, its power was on another level. He advanced with a high-speed punch. The target was the mannequin's head. The impact of the blow launched the metal mannequin backward. A cloud of dust spread through the arena. The mannequin fell to the ground with a hole in its chest. Lucas stared at the mannequin on the floor. Manhwa watched him. She recognized his speed was comparable to high-level wind magic, and his attack had the power of a curse rank. The other students reacted with surprise. She realized she was the only one who noticed his true strength. She analyzed him on the screen, concluding he was hiding his real power. The examiner congratulated him with a perfect score. Lucas offered to help clean up the broken mannequin. His name appeared on the scoreboard, and he signaled to Julia. The girl celebrated his result. She was happy he managed to hide his strength and avoid a 0. As the exams continued, fewer students paid attention to Lucas's destructive power, but everyone was impressed by Julia's rare talent. She then gathered a large amount of power, surprising the candidates around her. She concentrated the power into her staff. Next, a spell circle formed at her feet. She then announced the descent of lightning. A massive lightning bolt was conjured and descended from the skies. The attack hit the mannequin. Spectators commented that type of magic was ideal for attacking. The crowd reacted, impressed by the honor student's power, while one of them pointed to the arena. Julia was sitting on the ground. Other candidates wondered if the lightning hit her so hard she couldn't get up. She remained on the floor, not understanding what happened. The examiner announced Julia Ryan's score as 9.5 and called the next candidate. Back with Lucas, she explained she used the spell and a lightning bolt fell out of nowhere, which completely scared her. The girl continued, saying that even at full strength, the lightning seemed more active than usual. He just watched her silently for a moment. The effect was caused by the potion he gave her. but Lucas decided not to tell her. In this world, both mages and martial artists had their own techniques for creating potions. Mages dedicated themselves to brewing potions, while martial artists refined elixirs. Magic potions required a medium, but elixirs made through refinement could be absorbed directly by the body. In the past, various elixirs were created, but with the decline of martial arts, refining elixirs became extremely difficult. Very few martial artists in the modern era could create the mage essence elixir that boosted Julia's power. This was because creating that elixir required the refinement ability to be at level 6. Currently, the only other person capable of such a feat was the level 9 martial artist, Duke Retisuzan. Lucas decided to keep his level 6 ability an absolute secret to avoid trouble. Time passed outside the academy. While waiting on a bench, Julia asked if it wasn't over yet. Lucas replied they just needed to wait for the class assignments. A voice then called for Julia and Lucas. Mina approached them, waving near a bulletin board. Lucas stood up and asked what she was doing there. She explained she came to post the class assignments and congratulated them for getting first place. Julia celebrated the news that she was first in the elite class. Lucas congratulated her, and she celebrated with him for passing into the elite class too. Then Mina asked Julia if there was any department she wanted to join next year, leaving her confused by the question. Mina explained that the academy had 5 departments. All students were assigned to one after the first year. The girl then deduced that, based on her attribute, she would probably go to the wind department. Mina then grabbed her and said she would wait for her in the wind department. Julia agreed to the proposal. Lucas noted that Mina was already recruiting people, while she offered to take Julia to the female dormitory. Julia said goodbye to her brother, saying she'd see him later. Lucas waved goodbye, asking Mina to take care of his sister before heading to the martial arts department. The students announced that the class assignments were published. Julia Ryan got first place as expected. One student commented that the other freshmen were just extras to make the genius stand out. The final scoreboard showed Julia Ryan in first place in the elite class. Iowa swore that one day she would take first place from Lucas and Julia. Lucas already knew the martial arts department wasn't a priority, but he wondered if anyone could actually live in a building that looked ready to collapse. At least a place like that would be quiet enough for the peaceful school life he wanted. A guy approached him, asking if he was Lucas, the department's top-ranked student. He introduced himself as Kai Taroy, from the same department, and greeted him. Lucas ignored him and headed to the registration desk. As he signed the papers, Kai praised him for launching the dummy into the air, but Lucas just said it was luck. An older man handed over a key, saying his room was on the 2nd floor. Seeing the key was for room 205, Kai cheered that they'd be rooming together. The two walked down a rundown hallway looking for the room. Kai and Lucas were surprised to find someone else already inside. The guy introduced himself as Sharp. Along with his friend Collins, he said they'd all be roommates from now on. Kai reacted to the news. Their room was in terrible condition. Kai questioned what kind of room this was. He reacted with disgust, claiming the place was worse than a pigsty. Then, startled by a spider, he asked Lucas if he really intended to stay in such a filthy room. Lucas just watched his reaction. The boy showed a coin. He held it up, offering it as a reward to whoever cleaned the room. As Sharp and Collins cleaned, Lucas watched the scene. Kai approached and tried to reassure him, saying living conditions should improve. An older man knocked on the door, announcing he was there to deliver uniforms. He informed them the entrance ceremony was about to start in the hall, so they needed to change and head over. Kai reacted indignantly to the uniforms, complaining he'd look like a beggar if he wore them. The man explained the school had a request system to improve student treatment. He suggested a request could even result in changing the uniform. With this new information, Kai hurried to the hall. They arrived at the academy's main hall. Lucas walked across the floor. Wearing the new uniform, he entered the grand hall. He observed the structure of the place. His roommates were also impressed, but Kai claimed it was nothing compared to his house. He searched for Julia in the crowd. Kai pointed out that the elite class sat in the front. The girl was sitting in the first row, and the elite class uniform was next level. Kai warned him that their department's seats were the furthest away, in the back. Lucas decided not to go, saying the uniform looked better on Julia. A student complained the seats were too far, questioning if there was discrimination against the martial arts department. Lucas sat in his seat while a girl next to him watched him. Then, candles on stage lit up with a great flame. A flower of fire materialized in someone's hand. Floating on stage with his level 6 ability, he said the new students should feel honored. He continued his speech, introducing himself as the student council president. Back on the ground, Theodore Palomel announced he would present the school's point system. Female students in the audience reacted to his presence, calling him a genius. Lucas watched him silently from his seat in the back of the hall. Theodore explained that at Allen Magic Academy, the point system was the basis for almost everything. He detailed that magical abilities, books, tamed beasts, and even guidance from great masters could be obtained with points. There were various ways to get points, but manual labor earned very little. It was much more efficient to earn points by participating in department events or guiding freshmen. Lucas then understood why Mina was helping them. Theodore concluded by saying that becoming a student council member guaranteed a stable income of points every month. Lucas listened intently to the speech. Theodore continued, revealing that, although risky, there was also monster hunting. He explained that behind the school lay the magical beast mountain range, where students could hunt them for points. Hearing the name of the mountain range, Lucas clenched his fist. A smile appeared on his face as he realized it was a training ground tailor-made for him. A few hours later, night fell over the academy dorms. Inside one of the rooms, a young man slept soundly in his bed. Incense burned slowly, keeping the room's occupants asleep. Lucas Ryan sneaked out, revealing the tranquility incense was used so he could go to the home of the magical beasts. He remembered the martial arts department building was at the back of the campus, so Lucas concluded the magical beast's home was right behind that wall. He jumped over the high wall. The boy landed on the other side in wild territory. Lucas advanced through the forest while some creatures chased him. He jumped and delivered a downward kick to a monster appearing in his path. His foot struck the creature's head with precision. The body's impact against the ground kicked up a large cloud of dust. The creature remained motionless inside a small crater. One of the monster's horns snapped from the force of the blow. From atop a tree, Lucas identified the creature as a giant black-horned toad. Holding the horn, Lucas explained that because they were poisonous, they were used for magic potions and should be worth a good amount of points. He remembered hearing that Allen Magic Academy had some legendary martial arts books in its archives. Watching the mountains, the boy stated he didn't have much time and needed to first identify the monster's locations. Then he covered one eye to activate an ability. His perception expanded over a vast area of the forest. A level 1 giant rat opened its maw to attack him, but Lucas hit it with a blow and ordered the creature to sleep. Next, he punched a level 2 two-eyed bat and dodged the attack of a level 3 magic-crested panther. Small explosions echoed throughout the forest. Satisfied, Lucas commented that he got a great result, with materials that could be used to refine elixirs and others he could exchange for points. While dragging a heavy sack, he realized the place was too quiet. He touched the ground and noticed almost no traces of other magical beasts. Lucas wondered if this meant a powerful creature lived nearby. Then Lucas knelt to concentrate and feel the area around him. He felt a presence coming from a trail in the forest. Lucas found the entrance to a dark cave. A dark emanation emerged from inside the hole. A snarling wolf with glowing eyes revealed itself in the darkness. With a smile, Lucas said he found it. He leaped through the trees, realizing the creature a kilometer away had also noticed him. The young man left his sack of items at the cave entrance. Then he stepped forward, entering the creature's lair. A huge level 6 fire and ice wolf emerged, snarling at him. The creature stared at the boy with intimidating eyes. Lucas understood that being a wolf, it made sense for it to be so territorial. The beast charged with its mouth open to attack, fist clenched. He invited it to confront him. Lucas then landed a punch on the wolf's paw, and the creature retaliated with a powerful blast of ice. Lucas blocked the attack, covering his fist with ice. The wolf retreated at the unexpected defense. He then shattered the ice and landed a direct punch to the creature's face. With the wolf stunned, Lucas leaped back, holding a piece of ice. The beast staggered and hit the cave wall. Standing over the fallen creature, he lamented that if he had trained more, he would have caused much more damage. Lucas provoked it to get up, saying the fight wasn't over yet. The wolf rose again and concentrated a sphere of fire in its mouth. Then it fired an immense blast of flames. The explosion of fire consumed the surrounding area. Amidst the flames, the creature stood its ground. The wolf howled to the sky, releasing its fury, but Lucas appeared beside it, unharmed by the attack. The boy prepared another blow while the beast stared at him, and landed a powerful punch to the wolf's stomach. The impact of the blow stunned the creature. The creature was thrown forcefully against the cave wall. Then the wolf fell to the ground, finally defeated. Lucas watched the fallen animal and commented on its rare ability to freely control fire and ice. Even wounded, the wolf stared at him. The creature's eye revealed an unusual pattern. With eyes shining in the dim light, Lucas stated that this was a very rare magical beast. Lucas approaches the wolf. The beast unleashes a simultaneous blast of fire and ice from its maw. He stares down the beast's dual elemental attack. Two blasts of raw power hurtle toward him. Lucas spots steam rising where the opposing elements collide. A swift attack grazes him. The wolf seizes the distraction to escape. The beast bolts, sprinting at high speed to exit the cave. But Lucas leaps after it, yelling that he won't let it get away. He reaches out to grab the creature. He manages to snag the wolf's tail, With a powerful spin, he hurls it into the air. Holding a clump of fur, Lucas remarks that fighting a giant magical beast is good practice, and it must be worth a lot of points. Suddenly, a look of surprise crosses his face at something he sees. Another identical wolf appears and attacks the creature he was just fighting. Lucas leaps backward, dodging the assault. One wolf unleashes a torrent of flames in his direction. Meanwhile, the other attacks from above. The first wolf intensifies its fire attack. Lucas dives toward the ground, yelling at them to quiet down. He slams his fist into the ground, generating a massive shockwave. His clenched fist trembles with the force of the impact. The blow's energy ripples throughout the entire cave. The two wolves pin him down, and he wonders if this is where he'll be defeated. He concludes he has no choice but to use his last resort. Two enormous paws slam into the ground where he just was. He looks up, eyeing the new threat. An even larger wolf lands right in front of him. The giant creature drops a fire core and an ice core onto the ground. Lucas wonders if those are beast cores. In this world, some magical beasts are born with a core containing all their power. If a human's vital energy touches that core, the creature becomes their tamed beast. So, Lucas asks if the wolf wishes to become his servant. Smiling, the young man affirms that he accepts the proposal. He considers it an unexpected acquisition. Not even mages usually possess a level 6 tamed beast, but the wolf doesn't seem very smart. Proud, magical beasts would never submit to a mere human. Lucas then performs the necessary ritual. He transfers a little of his energy to the two cores. He offers the cores to the wolf. The creature absorbs them into its body. Surprised, Lucas hears a voice calling him master. He looks around, trying to find the source of the voice. The wolf reveals it's the one speaking, and Lucas realizes he can understand the creature. Lucas calls him a good boy and decides to name him Ul. The beast agrees. He then wonders if Ul's territory now belongs to him, and if there's any good loot from its hunts. The wolf looks to the side with a determined look. The wolf rubs its snout against Lucas's face affectionately. Ul beckons him to follow it to its treasure, and Lucas praises its intelligence. The pair venture deeper into the cave's depths. They pass creatures sleeping while hanging from the ceiling. The stench makes Lucas cover his nose. They find a pile containing the hide of a level 6 magical beast, the remains of an ancient creature, and even precious gems. He's surprised to realize it's literally a treasure trove. But Ul corrects him, explaining that isn't his treasure. The items left by past adventurers near the remains are the master's treasure. Then, the creature guides him to a collection of beast cores, all level 3 or higher, including 2 level 6s. The wolf explains that it ate all the cores with water and fire attributes. The narration reveals that to level up, a beast must consume a core from another of equal or higher level. This means Ul defeated at least 2 opponents as strong as himself. Lucas congratulates him on a job well done and gives him a reward. The wolf sniffs it and says it smells good. Ul seems invigorated after consuming the item. Lucas explains it's a healing potion that also works on magical beasts and tasks him with recovering and guarding the treasure. Ul enthusiastically accepts his first mission. Standing beside Ul, Lucas announces it's time for the next step. A discreet smile forms on his lips. The following day, the sun illuminates the Academy's imposing classroom building. Lucas and Sharp enter the room, where Iowa Miranda is already seated. Yawning, Lucas comments that despite pulling an all-nighter, he doesn't feel tired thanks to the sleep incense. He recalls trying to count his treasure, but Ul wouldn't stop bothering him. The clock on the wall indicates that the class is about to begin. The martial arts department classroom remains almost empty. Sharp wonders where the teacher is and why no one else is there. Kai Taroi suggests the administration might have forgotten to assign them a teacher, but Lucas finds that unlikely. Shuffling footsteps echo from the hallway. A man stumbles inside, kicks a bottle, and complains about feeling hungover. Sharp watches the scene, but Lucas maintains a neutral expression. The newcomer leans against the door, introduces himself as Shigart, head of the martial arts department, and announces the start of class. Lucas watches him silently. Shigart scrawls his name on the chalkboard. He turns to the class, holding up a small book. Kai Taroi stares down the teacher. He demands to know if this guy is really their professor, noting he certainly doesn't look the part. With a blur of motion, Lucas strikes him. Kai sits down, stunned by the sudden action. That quick movement makes Lucas smile. The professor announces roll call. No one leaves without permission. He calls for Tishy, who answers, "Here." Next is Lucas. The young man raises his hand, confirming his presence. After Collins answers, Shigart calls for Sharp. Silence. The professor snaps the book shut and declares everyone present. Shigart claims he forgot the textbooks. He appoints Tishy as class representative to fetch them. The girl points to herself in disbelief. The professor confirms it's her. Kai Taroi shoots up, protesting that the rep should be chosen fairly. He boasts that with his family background and skills, He should be the one chosen. Then, something smacks him in the face. Shigart gestures with his hand, reminding him he already gave a warning. He reiterates, no speaking without permission. He instructs Tishi to hand out the books for self-study, then leaves the room. The young woman realizes this is her chance to change her fate. Kai complains about the professor. Lucas notes there's definitely something off about the man. Kai suggests reporting him to the administration. Meanwhile, Lucas observes Shigart's walk, noting signs of an old injury. Lucas wonders just how strong the professor was before he got hurt. He tells Kai he never agreed to complain. Kai questions his attitude. A few hours later, outside the cafeteria, Lucas decides a strong, mysterious teacher makes things interesting. Outside, Kai greets a classmate and gripes that they only had self-study because of that professor. He keeps ranting about the master's irresponsibility until Julia calls out to her, "Big brother." Lucas pats her head, asking about her first class. Julia says her teacher, Ms. Linda, is super cool and encouraged her to run for class representative next week. She asks if the martial arts department chose one yet, and if it was him. Smiling, Lucas replies it wasn't. Lucas invites them to lunch, mentioning he heard the food is good. Julia runs ahead excitedly, leaving Kai behind, yelling for them to wait. At Allen Magic Academy, even meals are part of the point exchange system. New students can only exchange cash for points once. The elite class dishes look appetizing. Julia tries the food and tells her big brother to eat up. Kai watches silently. Wiping his face, he complains. They both paid 1 coin, but the elite class got 100 points while the martial arts department only got 10. A staff member tells him to leave if he has a problem. Kai realizes even the staff openly discriminate against martial arts students. She asserts that untalented students must work hard and save points. Kai feels like he lost his rights just by enrolling here. Julia offers Kai a plate of food. Touched, he calls her a sweet, gentle girl. Lucas notes his classmate is being a bit dramatic. As Kai sits near Lucas, Maya Rasta approaches their table. Smiling, she greets Lucas and Julia, saying they meet again. Julia invites Maya to join them, but the young woman declines with thanks, saying she already ate. Instead, she offers cookies she baked to thank them for their help the other day. The little girl accepts the sweets with a smile. Lucas tries a cookie and compliments Maya, saying she's a great cook. The young woman smiles at the praise. Kai leans into Lucas and asks for a cookie. He compliments the sweet and introduces himself as Kai Taroy. Maya Rasta introduces herself in return. Lucas just watches the interaction. Julia waves goodbye as Maya walks away from the table. Lucas comments that the cafeteria is a terrible place to meet people. Mina approaches their table and asks if the food is good, greeting Lucas shyly. Suddenly, Theodore Polymel descends from upstairs using fire magic. The boy shows off, floating through the cafeteria. After landing, Theodore sits on a bench to rest. Lucas eats a cookie, remembering the entrance ceremony. He looks to the side, noticing something. He watches Professor Shigart walking away, drinking from a bottle. The man takes another swig, then he leaves the cafeteria and walks across the academy grounds. Shortly after, Shigart opens a door. Inside the room, 2 men comment that he's the last to arrive again. One says he thought taking over the martial arts department would straighten him out. The other replies, "You can't blame him after what happened." Now seated at the meeting table, Shigart stretches. A blonde woman stares at him from across the room. She watches him with a serious expression. Someone taps their fingers on the table to get attention. With everyone gathered, the meeting finally begins. An older man announces the agenda: the Magical Beast Taming Tournament. It's an annual tradition in the Carmina Empire for all Allen Magic Academy freshmen to participate. An instructor reports they have already prepared over 2,000 level 1 magical beasts for the event. It will be held in 6 days, just like every year. One professor suggests the martial arts students should just sit it out. It would be a waste of time. He slams his hand on the table, but Shigart stands up and objects. The professor justifies himself, saying he was only thinking of the students. An instructor interrupts to agree with Mr. Shigart. She asserts that as long as they are freshmen, martial arts students must be required to participate. Another teacher agrees, stating all students should be treated equally. The man wonders why there are still professors who side with Shigart, especially Linda. Shigart and the instructor stare down the professor. He yields to their insistence but claims the students will just end up scared. An older man declares it decided. The martial arts department will participate. The dissenting professor leaves the room. Another instructor approaches Linda, asking if she's sure about this. He explains that while martial arts require real combat, the taming tournament might be too harsh for them. Linda just offers a faint smile. She remembers something someone told her long ago. Shigart asserts that a coward cannot call themselves a martial artist. Any student who refuses to participate in the tournament will have to leave the department. It is announced that the Magical Beast Taming Tournament will be held in 6 days. The professor informs the class that after the lesson, They will have practical combat training so everyone can defeat a magical beast. Kai Taroi questions the point of participating. The tournament is just to choose a class rep, and they already have one. The professor tells the student to be quiet. Class is starting. Lucas rests his chin on his hand, looking away. Outside, the students begin training. During training, a female student is shoved against a wooden pillar. Tishy readies her combat stance. One student comments to another that everyone passed the entrance exam, so they aren't that bad. Tishy attacks with a kick that kicks up the dirt. Lucas dodges a classmate's attack, sending the attacker stumbling backward. Shigart raises a bottle and announces it's late, ending the day's training. Kai Taroi sits on the ground, saying it's finally over. Collins approaches with Sharp, advising he'll bring his food later. Kai asks if he made another deal. He explains he traded a coin for food. Sharp asks why he wasn't informed about such a good deal. Collins apologizes and promises Sharp he can have the next one, which Sharp readily accepts. Lucas watches their interaction. Kai approaches Lucas, asking if he isn't very bright. He puts his arm around Lucas, offering to teach him for free. Lucas smiles and thanks him for the offer, but declines. Kai then remembers Lucas has a sister in the elite class and doesn't need to worry about points. Later that night, Lucas reflects that Kai got it all wrong. He asserts that even without Julia, he doesn't worry about food. Lucas wipes his mouth. Nature's bounty is right here. He prepares to cook a large piece of meat. The meat roasts slowly over a campfire. Sitting by the fire, he thinks he could use dinner time for training if he didn't have to take Julia home. He remembers how the vice president, Mina, tried to get close to Julia today. He can't let his guard down. He decides that if she has the slightest bad intention, he will stop her. Ul's tail wags behind him, making him turn. Ul appears and watches the roasting meat. Lucas offers the meat to Ul, telling him to eat up. Ul proceeds to devour the meal. Lucas then warns that after eating, Ul will help him train. He promises it will be a safe workout. Their training takes place in the forest. Meanwhile, at the Ryan family estate, a woman sits alone on a balcony at night. Holt approaches from behind. He asks if she is thinking about the children again, and she confirms it. He comments that their classes have probably started by now. Holt suggests she should go visit them if she misses them so much. He offers to take her, since he needs to pass through Daku City for work. She thanks him for the offer. The woman expresses her happiness at being able to see the children. At Count Grindo's house, several hooded figures gather in a grand hall. 3 masked members observe the surroundings. A green-haired woman welcomes Jessica, saying she is happy she could make it. She invites her to sit. Jessica Ryan, wearing a mask, observes the hostess. The hostess presents her new creation, Jade Dream, a special drink. Jessica takes an offered goblet containing a liquid. The green-haired woman picks up a small vial containing a rare essence. She adds a few drops to the mixture as the finishing touch. She tells everyone to enjoy. The hostess moves through the hall. Then she announces the start of the day's activity. Jessica remains seated, observing the scene, goblet in hand. Jessica questions how an 11-year-old girl destroyed the Black Wind group. She explains that Julia received a level 7 blessing. The hostess comments that the girl inherited the talent of both the Catherine and Miranda families. But the green-haired woman insists a mere level 7 shouldn't have been able to defeat them. She grabs Jessica's ear, saying her daughter's efforts won't bear fruit. The hostess lifts her chin. She asks if she wants to kill Catherine and her daughter to become the Baroness. Jessica agrees and asks what she must do. The green-haired woman just smiles. She places a symbol on the table. The hostess remarks that the moment a young sprout withers is truly beautiful. Tishy mentions hearing they have more practical combat training that morning, but some students complain their whole bodies ache, calling Mr. Shigart a monster. She admits it hurts, but says it's to get stronger. A classmate questions her. Lucas and Kai, however, claim to feel no pain at all, and Tishy watches them. Then Kai brags about being the strongest in the class, backed up by his friends. Lucas just watches the scene from afar. Tishy notes the 4 of them seem fine, and concludes they'll become great martial artists. Kai charges into combat, yelling for them to start. Lucas blocks his opponent's punch. Kai watches his hand being stopped. Then Lucas attacks him with a palm strike. He braces for a counterattack. With a single blow, he sends Kai and the others flying back. Kai praises him, saying that wasn't bad at all. Lucas replies that he wasn't either. Lucas watches the other students training from a distance. He then turns, feeling like he's being watched. An elderly man is meditating under a large tree. Kai approaches and asks if it's that old guy. Seizing the distraction, Kai attacks him, yelling that he left an opening. But the attack fails, and he's thrown to the ground. He gets up and tells Lucas not to look away, because they'll fight until there's a winner. Lucas simply agrees and prepares to continue. The old man gets up and leaves. A young woman asks Director Otani if he's returning to the library, but he refuses the company. The director calls him a fascinating young man. He realizes the boy is hiding his true strength. He decides he'll remember the name Lucas, since even he can't assess his abilities. while Kai celebrates the victory. Several hours later, class finally ends. He recalls that in the afternoon, Mr. Shigart taught massage techniques, saying it was important for everyone to learn. A classmate of Lucas massages Sharp, who says that's exactly the right spot. Lucas reflects that the effect was incredible, and now it's time to progress in the new training field. He decides to first go buy the materials he needs for it. The Allen Magic Academy Magic Supply Store has a large selection of rare products. He enters the place and compares it to a mall. A high-quality mannequin costs 30 points, and like everywhere else, he has to pay with points. He realizes the selection is great, but everything is very expensive. It looks like he'll spend 1,000 points a month. He remembers that Julia earns a lot of points, but he can't keep depending on her. He'd feel bad if she lost her lunch money. For today, he decides to buy just the magic potion to mix into his bath. Next time, he'll trade materials from the cave for points. The shop clerk is dozing at her desk. She lifts her head and wakes up. Lucas approaches the counter and asks for the item he wants. The clerk informs him the total will be 5 points. He uses his card to make the payment. The woman notices from his uniform that he's a martial arts student and is spending half his initial 10 points at once. The clerk confirms the 5-point payment and hands him the product, and Lucas thanks her. She questions if he can really use all that, warning that he'll regret it if he wastes his points. But he replies that he doesn't think it will be enough, and that he'll come back to buy more. The clerk concludes he's a noble, since martial arts students don't have potion classes. She leans back in her chair, complaining that this is why she hates nobles. That night, in his cave, Lucas relaxes in a hot bath. He reflects that mixing the potion into the bath doesn't make the medicinal effect disappear, and that it would be a waste to throw it all away. He then considers that he can't make someone else drink his bathwater. UI emerges from the darkness behind him. Lucas gets out of the bath, satisfied, and decides he'll grab some materials to trade for points. He resolves to stick to common level 2 materials so as not to attract attention, but a creature emerges from the water behind him. He turns around. UI is drinking the bathwater, and Lucas asks him what he's doing. Hiding behind the barrel, Lucas asks if UI drank all the water. The wolf just stares at him. Lucas then steps out of the tub, saying it doesn't matter, since that will strengthen UI's body too. UI thanks him and asks for meat too, so Lucas calls him a glutton, commenting that this solves the wasted water problem. He plans to trade the materials for points in 3 days and hide the tools near the dorms for now. The shop clerk sees him carrying a heavy tool and offers magic help, but he refuses. She waves goodbye, calling him a blessed child. Shigart reminds everyone that the taming tournament is tomorrow and asks if they're taking it seriously. He tells the students not to slack off. They can quit and go home if they don't want to train. The teacher points out that Sharp's leg is too high, leaving him vulnerable, and then turns to Kai. He questions Kai's weak punch, but the student retorts that he already beat Lucas, Sharp, and Collins. The teacher hits Kai and then asks the other 3 if they really lost to that guy. Lucas, Sharp, and Collins confirm that they did. Shigart puts his hand to his face, complaining that this is why spoiled nobles are a problem. He then instructs Tishy to fight Kai, and she accepts. The two position themselves on the training field. Kai warns he won't hold back. He'll prove he's the fittest to be the class representative. Tishy simply invites him to start. He advances with a kick, yelling for her to take the hit. Kai smiles during the attack, but Tishy hits him in the stomach, making him recoil from the impact. Her arm moves quickly. She blocks his punch with her leg and asks what he thinks of that. Kai reacts to her counterattack. With a single blow, Tishy launches him away. Kai lies on the ground with a mark on his forehead. He immediately blocks her strike and yells not to be underestimated. Tishy then prepares another palm attack. With a single blow, she launches him away again. Lucas watches the defeat and comments that now he understands why the teacher made Tishy the class representative. Shigart orders everyone to take training seriously. Tishy approaches Kai and asks if he's okay. The teacher warns that tomorrow everyone must tame at least 1 magical beast. He threatens to expel anyone who fails from the martial arts department. Shigart announces this is the final stretch, and they will fight with everything they have until sunset. Lucas helps Kai up from the floor. He tells Kai his defense is a mess, but he'll be fine if he corrects that bad habit. But Kai denies it. He declares he thinks he's in love with Tishy. He explains it was the first time he was defeated by a girl, and he's already thought of names for their children. The next day, the students are instructed to enter the gate in an orderly fashion. Kai comments that the place is huge. He wonders how many magical beasts are there, starting to get scared. 2 students from another department mock the martial arts students, saying they'll be destroyed immediately. Shigart tells his students to use the time to memorize the tournament rules instead of worrying about useless thoughts. Lucas sits next to his teacher in the bleachers. The boy looks to the side. Kai admits he's getting nervous, but Lucas advises him to pretend the magical beasts are Mr. Shigert. Lucas explains that they're weak. He tells Kai to just picture himself taking down Mr. Shigert. The idea gets him pumped, but Shigert warns them. He can hear every word they're saying. Lucas reminds him that a low-level magic beast can't break his defense. Kai promises not to make that mistake again. Shigert watches Lucas give sound advice. Meanwhile, an announcer appears on a screen. Julia announces the start of the tournament. She asks for the first group of competitors to enter. The announcer explains the rules. Taming 10 magic beasts earns a perfect score. The time limit is 10 minutes. Julia enters what appears to be a barrier space. She wonders how so many magic beasts could fit inside such a small hut. 2 large beasts with razor-sharp teeth appear right in front of her. She assumes everyone else is at the back of the hut and readies her attack. Casting a spell, she declares that she's caught the cute little magic beast. Her attack strikes the creatures. The announcer explains that when a beast submits, vibrant smoke will emit from its body. This allows professors outside the barrier to track each student's progress and assign grades. A professor observes the tournament's progress. A teacher announces that the mission at Site 5 is complete. She calls for the next competitors to prepare. An instructor praises the girl for finishing in just 3 minutes. She thanks him. Then, she asks for the location of the martial arts department's competition so she can watch her brother. The man informs her it will be at Site 10, the very last one. She decides to grab a snack while she waits. The girl walks off down the hallway. Iowa Miranda watches. She wonders if Lucas Ryan will achieve the same results he did during the entrance ceremony. 2 hours later, a student worries about only getting 1 point. His classmate reassures him. He explains that except for the elite class, all the mages only managed 1 point. Kai wonders if they'll be able to stay in the martial arts department. Lucas tells him not to worry. In terms of raw power, they aren't any weaker than the mage classes. Shigert clasps his hands together and agrees. He tells the students not to sell themselves short. No one was injured because a level 1 magic beast can't hurt a human. The professor asserts that they are stronger than low-level mages in close combat. He urges them to have more confidence. The students comment on how weird it is that Mr. Shigart is actually encouraging them. Tishy walks up. She confirms that she went to check, and no one was injured. Tishy explains that most students are just exhausted from draining their mana. She also reveals an important piece of information she discovered. She reveals they're using barriers to restrict beast movements, which stops students from getting surrounded. She advises that if a student can't win, they should just run. Find a weaker beast to get a good score. The students thank her for the intel. Shigart reflects that choosing Tishy as representative was the right move. A professor remarks that he heard a vile student spying on their class. He turns to Shigart. He says that when you lack talent, the only option is relying on cowardly tricks to survive. Shigart asks what he wants. Greg replies that he came to warn them. The martial arts department is up next. He adds that the students had better try their hardest, or the entire department might get shut down. The professor just remains silent. Greg asserts it wouldn't be a problem if the department disappeared. It never should have been created in the first place. The man turns and walks away laughing. Lucas watches him go. He remembers how that guy is exactly like the bullies from his past life. Lucas stands up. He asks if he's going first, since he ranked first in the entrance ceremony. Shigart confirms this. However, he offers Lucas the option to let someone else go if he's nervous. Lucas refuses the offer. He states he's going first, just as he planned. Lucas asserts that he will definitely get a good score to show up everyone who despises the martial arts department. His classmates cheer him on, shouting that they'll show everyone what they're made of and put on a show. Professor Shigart notices their attitude shift, noting they were all trembling just a second ago. A student reminds them not to forget what Tishy said. Lucas replies that he doesn't think using honorifics is right. 10 minutes later at Site 10, Lucas finds himself in a dark and foggy arena. He clenches his fist, ready for action. Perception magic circles form in the sky. He realizes he needs to avoid them. He runs along the barrier so no one will know what really happens inside. An explanation reveals that when a magic beast recognizes a master, their souls connect. This allows for communication and temporary use of their abilities. Meanwhile, a white wolf gnaws on a bone. He lifts his head, questioning his master. Why use his power when the master is already stronger? Back in the arena, a wolf's paw materializes and attacks. With the wolf spirit beside him, Lucas states that subjugating low-level magic beasts is easy, but a massive owl flies straight at him. He identifies it as a high-level magic beast and orders a retreat. The owl advances, attacking with its talons. Then, the creature flies off into the large circular arena, but Lucas intercepts it mid-air with a spectral wolf's paw. He strikes it, stating that to make taming easier for other students, it's best to break their will to fight first. The beast crashes to the ground. He approaches, saying Lil's power is useful. The presence of a high-level beast should be enough to intimidate the lower-level ones. Its eyes spinning, the creature falls into a trance. Lucas thanks it for submitting so easily. He declares he can't let the potion smoke leak until he's tamed every beast in the area. The owl remains on the ground, now subjugated. He announces he's off to find more beasts. He says goodbye and leaves. The owl states it never wants to see him again. Outside the arena, the scoreboard shows Lucas Ryan still has 0 points. Kai despairs, seeing that half the time has passed. Julia insists that since she got a perfect score, she knows her brother can too. Holt Ryan watches the students from afar. Greg comments that having 0 points means he can't even beat the lowest level magic beast. He adds, "That's the difference between a martial artist and a mage." Shigart remains silent as he watches Greg. Julia yells at them not to mock her brother. She asserts he's amazing even without using magic. Holt Ryan grumbles that defending a martial artist makes her just as blind as Professor Linda. Greg tells her to say whatever she wants, but the results speak for themselves. Suddenly, a notification announces that Lucas Ryan has acquired 1 point. Kai and Tishy celebrate. At least he'll get to stay in the martial arts department now. A professor approaches, questioning why they're so happy with a single point when his class's highest score is 5. But then the points keep ticking up to 2, 3, and 4. The score hits 5, leaving Greg stunned. He can't believe the useless martial arts department matched his best student's score. Back in the arena, Lucas steps on a giant serpent. He notes that with all the beasts intimidated, his classmates can rack up points easily now. He decides he just needs to grab his perfect score and get out of there. Then, a lion-like beast appears before him. Lucas quickly defeats a series of magic beasts, reaching his 9th victory. The little owl realizes he actually came back. He strikes it mid-air, hitting the 10-point mark. Greg remains silent and starts to sweat. A notification announces that Lucas Ryan has achieved a perfect score of 10 points. Julia celebrates, exclaiming that that's her big brother. Lucas walks out of the arena. A voice over the loudspeaker questions if the martial arts department really just scored a perfect 10. He pats Julia on the head. She beams, saying she knew her big brother could do it. Greg starts shouting. He insists it's impossible for a martial arts freshman to tame 10 magic beasts. He spins toward Lucas, accusing him of using a ringer. Lucas just stands there, unmoved, while Julia shrinks behind him. Shigart steps in, grabbing Greg's hand. He states firmly that the boy did nothing wrong. A proctor walks up. He asks if Greg is implying that he accepted a bribe to allow cheating. Greg realizes he forgot about the proctors. Antagonizing them would be a huge problem. He backs down, explaining he just found it suspicious that the student got a perfect score when the training dummy broke earlier. The proctor decides to investigate the barrier space anyway. Kai complains that they're making a mockery of the judging. Lucas calms him down, telling him to just let them do whatever they want. The young man asserts he has nothing to hide. 10 minutes later, inside the barrier, a massive beast opens its eye. The barrier lowers. The beasts realize they can see outside, and that the strong human is gone. Deciding to escape, they fly straight out of the arena. Suddenly, chains snare the owl. A proctor notes the beasts seem very agitated, but they aren't weakened enough to need relocation. He asks his colleague if he genuinely believes the student earned a perfect score legitimately. The other proctor replies that he found nothing, but something must have happened to the magic beasts. He agrees to send the 10 beasts for a detailed inspection and resume the tournament. An announcement goes out. No issues were found during the inspection. The next competitors need to prepare. Lucas notes that even though they found nothing, they still don't believe in his abilities. But he adds to himself, the real surprise is just beginning. Tishy chats with Professor Shigart, then she runs into the arena. Determined, Tishy declares she can't lose to Lucas either. A wolf charges her inside the ring. She attacks the beast with a flurry of strikes. If she can't make it submit in 30 seconds, she decides she'll switch tactics and head for the gate. Tishy kicks the wolf away. The beast recognizes her aura as similar to that monster's and wonders if he is still nearby. Tishy clenches her fist with determination. She strikes the wolf again. It cowers on the ground before her. The girl wonders how a level 3 black wolf submitted so easily. She looks at her hand, questioning if it was just a coincidence. Tishy smiles, considering that maybe the martial arts department isn't so weak after all. Next, she leaps at another creature. Her score starts climbing rapidly as she defeats beast after beast. Outside, Kai shouts encouragement while Professor Shigart looks on. She keeps fighting, racking up even more points. Then, the young woman faces a massive saber-toothed tiger. With a single blow, she defeats her final opponent. A notification announces that Tishi Himeru has achieved a perfect score of 10. Kai celebrates, surprised she was faster than Lucas, and wonders what is going on. Leaving the arena, she reflects that the beasts weren't that scary. Being a martial artist doesn't make them weaker than mages. In the third match, a student attacks a bat-like creature. The creature is slammed into the ground. Collins gets a perfect 10, defeating his opponent with a dagger. Next, in the fourth match, Sharp kicks a large ape-like beast. He also achieves a perfect 10. In the 5th match, Kai Taroi punches a saber-toothed tiger. The beast hits the floor, completely defeated. Kai celebrates his perfect 10 score against the animal. The scoreboard shows that Julia, Aiwa, Lucas, and Tishi also reached the maximum score. As the tournament progressed, the martial arts students continued racking up perfect scores, rising straight to the top of every event. Professor Shigart smiles discreetly at the results. He takes a sip from his flask. A proctor announces that the detailed inspection found no issues with the magic beasts or the barrier space. An older man praises their martial arts skills, but questions why the division's scores are so exceptionally high. One proctor suggests the beasts were already scared by attacks from the mage class students, but his colleague counters that this has never happened before. The older man explains that since it's the martial arts division's first tournament, the students fighting up close must have frightened the beasts even more. He decides that the martial arts division will go first next year, but current scores will stand. Greg protests, shouting that this means the martial arts division will tie for first place with the elite division. Professor Shigart watches him from afar. The director asks if he has a problem with that. Greg retreats, arguing about the fairness of the result. But the older man simply states that luck is part of a person's skill. Another director agrees that it's not the student's fault and the scores cannot be discarded. Then, Director Otani orders Greg to announce the results. Greg watches Shigart and Linda walk away. He grumbles at Shigart, hoping he's paying attention. The two directors continue their conversation near the beast cage. One states this is a critical issue for the division's existence and asks the other if he knows what's really happening. Director Otani replies that he cannot share the details, but he promises it's nothing bad for the school. He decides he will stick to the plan and act like the boy's abilities aren't real, just as he wants. Kai celebrates his perfect score euphorically, saying he needs to tell his dad immediately. As they walk down the hallway, his classmates comment that taming the beasts wasn't that hard. They must have gotten stronger. Lucas attributes their success to Professor Shigart's special training. A door closes behind them. Now sitting down, Kai asks his friends what they'll do with the 20 bonus points they earned for first place. Collins replies he'll save his. He needs to be ready for emergencies. His friend retorts that the obvious answer is to buy high-quality materials for next month's combat training. Lucas, holding his drink, asks about the combat training. Kai mentions the Allen Tower, the exclusive proving ground of the Allen Magic Academy. He explains that inside, there's an illusory world full of beasts where you can gain combat experience without real danger. Collins worries because only 100 freshmen can enter. He wonders if they'll get one of the 88 remaining spots since the elite division has 12 guaranteed, but Kai reassures him. Since they all got perfect scores, their entry is guaranteed because selection is based on tournament rankings. Suddenly, a chair scrapes back. Kai asks where they're going. Collins replies he's heading to the material shop to buy training equipment. Lucas watches his two friends dash down the hallway. Lucas sips his drink, affirming to himself that making sure everyone got a perfect score in the tournament was the right decision. Kai approaches Lucas and suggests they visit the material shop too, but Lucas declines the offer. Suddenly, a pendant swings in front of Kai. Lucas grabs it, saying he wants a better look at the pendant Professor Shigart gave him earlier. Lucas holds the Fang pendant. Kai identifies it as the prize for the top 3 perfect scorers. He complains. Since he was 1 rank lower, the prize should have gone to Tishi. Lucas replies that his only talent is pure luck. Kai sighs in resignation. He decides to meet the others at the shop, and Lucas waves goodbye. Results flash on an outdoor screen for a crowd. The scoreboard congratulates the martial arts department. All members achieved perfect scores. A female student stomps the ground hard. It's Lila, Greg's student. She claims they needed top scores for the 3rd straight year to become the elite class. She asks if anyone has any idea how hard her father worked over the last decade to achieve that. She hurls an object at the scoreboard. A classmate adds that they also stole 20 spots in the Allen Tower. Another agrees, insisting those spots belong to the mages. A student mentions the magical beast-based professors said the martial arts students didn't cheat. Then, one of the mage students throws his own object at the board. He claims he heard the martial arts department bribed the teachers. Another agrees it's possible. For the son of the Taroi family, a bribe would be nothing. Then Andre, another of Greg's students, reveals he just saw the Taroi heir. He says the guy bought the last piece of training equipment at the campus supply store. A student worries that once the martial arts department gets their bonus points, they'll buy up all the valuable materials. Lila grips her staff. She reminds them that a martial artist's weak points are easy to hit. She suggests it might be time to deal with their little growth spurt. An object is hurled through the trees. It strikes the ground in front of Collins and Sharp. They demand to know why they are being confronted. Collins falls to the ground, hit. Sharp realizes the attack contained a noxious substance. He needs to recover quickly. He turns to his opponents and offers points in exchange for help, but Lila confronts them with her staff. Both boys are struck down and hit the ground. She tells them to shut up, stating she doesn't need their points. Lying on the ground, Collins asks the reason for the attack. Lila approaches Collins. She claims her demand is simple. Holding a vial, she orders him back to the martial arts department. She pops open the potion. She tells him to tell his entire class that they are inferior. The sun finally sets on the horizon. A few hours later, Lucas and Kai search the forest for their friends, calling out their names. Kai questions Lucas's worry, reminding him they are always late returning from their part-time jobs. Lucas simply replies that today is different. He stops in front of a road. He says he feels something is very wrong here. The sense of danger intensifies. He suddenly bolts through the forest, leaving Kai behind. Kai follows, asking why he ran off all of a sudden. An injured hand on the ground reaches out toward them. They find Collins and Sharp lying on the ground, barely conscious. Kai approaches their fallen friends and asks who did this. Lucas kneels down and holds one of them. In Lucas's arms, Sharp reveals it was Greg's class. He whispers Lila's name. He says they were hit internally. Lucas's face is completely shadowed. Kai yells his friend's name. He checks Sharp's condition, but Lucas reassures him. He says he's still alive, just unconscious. Lucas provides first aid to Collins and asks Kai to go get some potions. The boy runs through the forest to do it. Holding his other friend's arms, Lucas realizes he was targeted by a dangerous technique. He suffered severe damage. He identifies the method used and clenches his fist. Lucas declares this isn't a prank. It's a serious attack. On the ground, Collins calls for his parents, crying out in pain. Lucas looks at his injured friend. He comforts him, promising he will seek justice. Tishy and Kai arrive running, shouting Lucas's name. The girl asks if their friends were attacked. Kai explains he found her on the way back. Lucas says their lives aren't in danger, but they will need to rest for a few days. Kai thanks Lucas for the help, hands him a bag, and swears he will never forgive those responsible. Tishy announces she will go to the student council tomorrow. Kai questions if they will listen, since the teachers are already ignoring the case. Lucas asserts that it doesn't matter. Tishy observes the expression on his face. She realizes he seems like a different person, not the calm and gentle Lucas she knew. He declares that he will definitely solve this. Shortly after, they arrive at the student council room. Theodore Polymel listens to their report. He asks if they want to have a duel with the students from Professor Greg's class. Lucas confirms. He demands an apology from their opponents if they win, offering up his S-rank bonus if they lose. Theodore questions the lack of proof. He asks if the S-rank bonus refers to the pendant he's holding. The pendant swings in his hand. Lucas and Kai watch the object. He lets the pendant drop to the floor and apologizes, saying his hand slipped. Theodore suggests that betting something so cheap seems a bit dull for such an important duel. Kai remains silent. He expresses his anger as Lucas holds him back. Lucas asks what would be considered an appropriate bet. Theodore leans back in his chair, considering the proposal. He comments that it should be something exclusive to this school. Having an idea, Theodore leans forward. He suggests they bet their entrance qualifications for the Allen Tower. The proposal is that the losing side permanently forfeits the right to enter the tower. Lucas accepts the terms of the challenge. The duel was set for 2 days later. The dissatisfied freshmen cheered for Greg's class. Their professor publicly praised the 3 students who confronted Aldo's group. Shigart, on the other hand, said nothing. He just intensified his students' combat training. On the scheduled day, a large crowd gathers in the arena to watch. The 2 groups take their positions. The crowd shouts that those 3 are fighting for the martial arts department. Lila says that if they give up now, she might consider it. Lucas replies that they'll only know the result when the duel is over. A voice announces for both sides to prepare for the duel. Kai Taroy says it's time to end this quickly. Andre adjusts his glasses, holds his staff, and prepares for the clash. Then, the duel begins. Kai advances while Andre casts his spell. He moves rapidly, dodging the projectiles coming his way. Andre can't believe his opponent dodged every single attack. Kai asks if that's all he has to show. Kai Taroy dodges the incoming projectiles. Grinning, he asks if that's all his opponent has. Andre simply adjusts his glasses. He claims Kai hasn't even realized he's fallen into a trap. Suddenly, Kai notices something. His feet are freezing to the ground. The ice rapidly climbs his legs, immobilizing him. Andre warns there is no escape now. He bids his opponent farewell. Kai Taroy grips the hilt of his dagger. Andre slams his staff hard against the floor. The impact resonates through the massive ice structure. He asks if the other understands now. He states this is what happens when you provoke a mage. Injured, Kai can only manage, "You're gonna..." Andre demands Kai speak up if he wants to surrender. In the stands, Lila remarks that a loser is always a loser. She offers to let him live if he admits defeat right now. Irritated, Lucas Ryan asks how long she intends to keep talking, but Kai, holding an object, asks if the opponent's ice magic can freeze lava from the magical beast mountain range. Lila calls him an idiot. Lucas yells for him to run and get out of there. A massive explosion rocks the center of the arena. Andre is thrown backward by the shockwave. He realizes it was lava slime and questions Kai's intentions. Kai charges through the smoke toward his opponent. He lands a decisive blow to the chest, shattering a magic circle. Andre reacts with pain to the impact. In the audience, someone shouts that a martial artist injured a mage. Another spectator points out Kai's leg is severely injured from the explosion. Someone comments that Kai sacrificed his own mobility just to escape and has a lot of guts. Grinning, Kai states that the moment he broke the spell, his opponent left himself completely vulnerable. Andre wonders how he could be injured by a mere martial artist. Then he shouts that with injured legs, Kai can't dodge and tells him to give up. From the stands, Lucas Ryan throws another object toward the arena. The flask explodes mid-air, creating a distraction. Kai continues charging through the smoke. He leaps toward Andre, who calls him a lunatic. His hands begin to freeze. Kai complains that ice users are always sloppy with the finishing blow. Andre retreats, yelling for him to stay back. With a headbutt, Kai shatters the opponent's ice shield. The blow connects directly with Andre's face. He is hurled backward by the force of the impact. Down on the ground, Andre can't believe he lost to a martial artist. Kai Taroi raises his dagger and announces that the first match goes to the martial arts department. He asks Lucas Ryan if he saw how amazing that was, but Lucas reveals he put a strengthening potion in his breakfast. Kai then asks if Tishy will be okay in the next fight against that girl. As Tishy enters the arena, Lucas affirms she will be fine. A spectator comments that Andre must have gone easy on him because he's from the Taroi family. Tishy then questions why they can't just accept that they won fairly. Suddenly, she dodges a high-speed attack. Several projectiles hit the wall behind her, releasing a dark substance. Lila taunts her about the surprise attack and the moral principles of martial artists. She asserts that for mages, results are what matter. Tishy charges through the tentacles and attacks her opponent. She lands a straight punch right to Lila's face. The mage wonders how Tishy can be so fast, being only level 1. Lila's eyes widen. Tishy grabs her arm and says she's going to teach her something. She explains that her moral principles include the one that says life should be valued. Lila screams, realizing it's plant magic. Tishy then strikes her opponent's mana paths with perfect precision. Lucas Ryan clenches his fist in determination. He comments that the fight is decided, praising Tishy's keen perception. Tishy warns her opponent not to trample on a martial artist's pride so quickly. As she walks away from Lila, the second match is declared a victory for the martial arts department. Needles fall from the defeated mage's hand. In an observation room, a young man questions Mina about having permitted the use of poison needles. Theodore Polymel simply tells him not to be dramatic, since nothing bad happened. In the stands, Greg celebrates, saying Shigart knew what he was doing when he named Tishy as representative. One of the elite students complains that instead of being humiliated, the plan was to crush the martial arts department's spirit. Lucas believes there is still a chance if he uses that technique one more time. He enters the arena for the next confrontation. On the other side, his opponent also prepares. A barrier rises around the arena, and the third match begins. A swift attack moves along the ground toward Lucas. He watches the strike approach. The opponent advances at high speed, leaving a trail of afterimages behind. He explains that some mages also learn hand-to-hand combat, and that his clones will leave Lucas defenseless. Tishy questions what Lucas's plan is, since he's just keeping his distance and defending. Lucas decides he doesn't need to show his true strength yet. He stomps hard on the ground. He advances to at least test the enemy with a punch. The mage can't believe what he sees. Lucas hits him with a powerful blow. The opponent questions the strength of that punch. He counterattacks with his blade, asking if he was just imagining things. He notices the aura Lucas released for a second. The mage then declares it's his bad luck. Lucas watches the final attack approach. The blade strikes his shoulder deeply. He stares at the wound in silence. The mage attacks, claiming no one can resist his combat art. He promises to defeat Lucas completely. The opponent advances with the blow, but he realizes his technique isn't working, and warns that Lucas won't leave unscathed. In the stands, Kai yells that Lucas is in trouble and asks what was done to him. The mage mocks, saying the move Lucas was hiding was just a bluff. Lucas then grabs the blade, and his opponent declares this is the end. Lucas holds the weapon tightly, stating that should already be enough. Lucas then says now it's his turn. With a single stomp, Lucas cracks the arena floor with a shockwave. The mage is amazed that a level 1 martial artist could create such a wave with just one leg. Lucas holds the blade and says, now they don't need to worry about anyone seeing them, so he asks if he's ready. The opponent yells that it is a magic sword. Lucas then throws him to the ground with force. The magic sword slams into his hand in the process. The mage screams and admits his defeat. Lucas remains silent for a moment. From the stands, Greg questions why he's giving up when he could win easily. Shigart observes that Greg can't even perceive how injured his own student is. He then states that this could still become a problem. The students from the martial arts department celebrate the victory in all matches. They get excited about the possibility of actually being able to beat mages in duels. Suddenly, Tishy yells for Lucas to watch out as the defeated opponent advances to attack him. From her room, Iwa watches the scene and simply cannot believe it. Julia asks what's wrong, and Iwa Miranda explains that the move looked like the advanced technique Meridian Burn. She states that there hasn't been a martial artist capable of using that technique in the Empire in the last 100 years. While Kai Taroi celebrates with Lucas Ryan, Iwa wonders who he really is. One of the students yells that the three were amazing, and that mages are just cowards. Tishy then declares that from now on, she will challenge any mage who looks down on them to a duel. But she corrects herself and says she just performed better than usual today. Suddenly, Shigart appears and calls them arrogant fools for getting carried away so easily. Tishy promises she will get stronger and make them regret it. Lucas agrees that the professor is right about the need for confidence without arrogance. A woman approaches Shigart and comments that he's starting to sound like a real teacher. He replies that he just doesn't want his students ending up like him and asks what she wanted. Jessica Ryan, leaning against a tree, holds a letter describing the ruptured magic paths of the injured mage. In the medical room, Andre is lying in bed while a dark substance emanates from his body. A carriage arrives at a large building during the night. Someone slams a hand on a table, questioning how a simple freshman duel turned into this debacle. Headmaster Otani laments that his son's magical meridians were damaged, and he will never use magic again. Greg demands severe punishment for the person responsible and the dissolution of the martial arts department. Shigart enters the room, agreeing the culprit deserves severe punishment. He then reveals that the magic used by the trio in the duel matches the one used on Sharp and Collins, making them the guilty parties. Shigart asks the director to punish Greg and the others severely according to school regulations. Greg realizes they were planning to defeat his students during the duel. He questions why Shigart is bringing this up right now. He grabs Shigart, telling him not to change the subject as they discuss who is responsible for the forbidden technique. Shigart states it hasn't been confirmed as that technique yet, and a novice couldn't use it anyway. Greg agrees. The Ryan family boy couldn't control an ancient forbidden technique. Shigart then points out that an advanced martial artist could wield forbidden arts. Greg remembers the only advanced martial artist at the duel was Professor Shigart. He turns to Shigart and asks if he could be the real culprit. Shigart retorts that if he could use forbidden techniques, he would have used them on him long ago. Headmaster Otani questions how they explain his son's condition if it wasn't a forbidden technique. Shigart suggests perhaps it's karma, and says he asked Lucas about it later. He recounts that Lucas insisted he couldn't use forbidden arts and shared his own theory. In it, the mage paid huge sums to learn dangerous techniques from questionable individuals. Lucas suggests that, perhaps worried about information leaking, someone powerful from the underworld took advantage of the duel to act. The director ponders this possibility. Greg gets irritated, asking if they think they can dismiss the matter with ridiculous rumors. His ally agrees, stating this is merely speculation. But Shigart argues the theory is more credible than a beginner using an ancient forbidden technique. He warns that if they provoke this person's resentment, things will get serious. The Meridian Destroyer technique can instantly neutralize even the most talented mage. Later, Headmaster Otani walks alone through a library. He finds the book he was looking for. Opening it, he realizes the dust has been wiped off, proof that someone handled it recently. In the book, Headmaster Otani analyzes the hand shape of a specific technique. He confirms it was exactly as he thought. Alone, he remains in the immense library. The scene changes to the hot springs in the Magic Beast mountain range. Lucas holds a potion, announcing the final treatment for Sharp and Collins will begin. Inside the water, the two sit back to back. Suddenly, the water around them begins to churn intensely. Sharp reacts physically in response to the treatment. Collins also reacts intensely to the process. Lucas asks them to hang on just a little longer. He asserts that martial artists can use healing techniques just like mages. Several days later, a carriage arrives in the city of Dak. Catherine Ryan comments to her husband Holt that they will see the children soon. It's been a while. She notes that nothing has changed since long ago. Holt calls her name, noticing her expression, but Catherine smiles and tells him not to worry. She just remembered something from the past. Suddenly, she spots someone in the distance. A man approaches leading a horse. Catherine calls him Saiyan, and her younger brother greets her back. A memory from 10 years ago begins when Beastmen tribes launched a massive attack. The creatures advanced on the territory. The people united to resist, and after 3 days and nights of fighting, both sides suffered heavy damage. In that war, a young mage fought against the beasts. It was there that young Knight Commander Holt Ryan and the mage Catherine Miranda met. Holt faced enemies on the battlefield. Catherine watched him during combat. Having faced danger together, the two promised to spend their lives as one, but her father fiercely opposed the marriage, so Catherine cut all ties with the Miranda family. Sayan then reflects on how their children met first at the Allen Magic School. He comments that time flies. He says he heard her children are excellent and that their father commented Julia looks like her, leaving Catherine surprised. He then invites her to come back home, saying their father has always wanted to see her, but Sayan clarifies the invitation is for her alone. She understands this means Holt is not included. Holt tells her to go ahead. He needs to go to the front lines anyway. Catherine is visibly shaken by the situation, but he reassures her, saying he is happy they are letting her return home and that he will pick her up when the campaign ends. Holt then says goodbye and departs for his mission. Sayan reveals that Holt asked for his help with reconciliation, but his father still hasn't forgiven a noble mage for marrying a martial artist. He wishes that someday someone will appear to dispel society's prejudice against martial artists. Elsewhere, Lucas Ryan suddenly sneezes. Lucas wonders if he caught a cold despite training so hard, while Julia comments that it's rare for Kai to buy food for others. Kai tells them to leave him alone, grumbling that he'll make the others pay the bill when they're totally healed. Lucas simply replies that he thinks that's fair. Nearby, some students call him King of Luck, spreading rumors that he only won because a third party attacked his opponent. Andre questions whose gossip that is. Kai says he will deliver lunch to the dorm and asks Lucas to go ahead with Julia to the cafeteria. The girl eats her dessert happily. Lucas asks her if her hairpin is new, and Julia confirms it was a gift from Iowa of the Miranda family. He concludes that because she is a genius mage, it's no surprise they want to get close and become family. Then Lucas asks his sister to get along with Iowa for their mother's sake. Julia gets excited, saying she needs to write a letter to mom about becoming class rep. Mina approaches the table and congratulates the young girl on her achievement. She then states that Julia will certainly become a pillar of the school in the future and that she will always support her. A group of students passes by them, bumping into Mina's shoulder. She just watches them walk away in silence. A bit earlier, Jessica Ryan explains to Iowa Miranda that even though she has skills comparable to Julia's in mental magic, the other girl surpasses her in every other aspect. Because of this, she considers Julia more suitable to be the class representative. She then asks Iowa to please understand. Iowa clenches her fist and states that she will prove with her ability that the teacher is just favoring Julia. Back in the present, Julia watches Iowa leave the cafeteria. She comments that her roommate left and doesn't seem to be eating right, so Julia decides to buy lunch and take it to her. Mina approaches and asks if she's close to Iowa. Julia replies yes and praises her incredible mental magic, and Lucas agrees it's something rare. Mina then starts to say but and activates a magic circle around their table. Lucas identifies the spell as a silence magic circle to prevent sound from leaking. With a finger on her lips, Mina comments that very intelligent people are hard to deal with. She then offers her food, saying her wind magic is also interesting. Lucas takes a piece from her plate and asks directly what the real reason for her visit is. Mina adjusts her glasses, considering that the interference of Julia's brother won't be a problem. She praises Lucas's perception and decides to be direct. Then she asks if they know the Magical Beast Mountain range, where an ecological anomaly was detected. Mina explains that low-level magical beasts decreased drastically, and even magic-crested leopard cubs disappeared. A memory shows how common these creatures used to be in the region, and she reveals that 3 days ago, the Empire's investigation team discovered a high-level magical beast's lair. Julia immediately asks if it is an Uru's lair. Lucas remains silent, absorbing the information. He then questions if she wants them to perform a field mission and what the difficulty level is. Mina raises a finger and informs them the difficulty is 100 points. Lucas and Julia are surprised by the mission's level. Lucas believes that, even so, he and Julia can handle the task easily. The scene changes to the Miranda family estate. There, Duke Soa Miranda, head of the family, is enjoying a meal. Other family members are seated at the long dining table. Sayan observes that his stubborn father made his sister stay in the guest room, even with her old room already clean. He then notes that the environment has a funeral atmosphere, as his sister hasn't touched the food. Soa Miranda then calls Catherine by name, tapping his fork on the table, and he declares that he is willing to recognize her as his granddaughter, since Julia has the qualities to become a sacred archmage. Catherine thanks him, but when she mentions that Lucas is also an excellent martial artist, her father states that it's meaningless. He reinforces that the Miranda family seeks only those with talent to become sacred archmages. While she realizes that her father's prejudice won't change easily, an assistant enters the room and asks to be excused. He then delivers a letter, informing that the investigation team sent new information from the Magical Beast mountain range. Catherine questions the reason for the sudden investigation in the mountain range. Soa reads the report, which details a new area discovered below the lair with an unknown danger level. Saiyan worries that the children at the Allen Magic School, located next door, might be in danger. But the Duke states that as long as they remain at the school, with teachers and their subordinates, there will be no danger. He then tells Catherine to wait for the matter to resolve before going to see her children. She lowers her head and agrees with her father's decision. A mission appears requiring a group of 5 people, including a student council member. A nearby student reacts to the news. Mina questions the change, as the day before there was no limit, and the attendant explains that the president altered the rules because of a wyvern. She then understands that Theodore changed the conditions on purpose, doubting she could gather the group. Lucas observes the situation and ponders if the vice president is so lonely she can't recruit anyone, remembering her approach to Julia. Mina turns and apologizes, suggesting they'll have to give up the mission. Then Lucas offers to handle the recruitment, and Julia excitedly states that they will help. Thanking the two, Mina thinks she feels bad for using them as pawns. She remains silent for an instant. Suddenly, a voice calls for the senior. Kai Taroy arrives, saying he'll lend a hand, since his best friend Lucas is going on a field mission. Maya Rasta also presents herself, explaining she is a specialist in water-based healing magic and can be useful. Mina withdraws her thanks, stating that those freshmen will just be a burden. Julia asks why Lucas called Maya instead of Iwa, and he simply says Iwa wouldn't listen to him. The vice president decides it doesn't matter, as they are there to complete the number, and she and Julia will handle the mission. Mina announces that they will depart immediately, explaining that the trip will take half a day even with acceleration magic. Several hours later, the group travels at high speed through the forest. Upon arriving, she announces they reached the destination. She finds traces of battle and a Miranda family crest on the ground. Lucas asks if the location is being investigated by the Empire's exploration team. He turns to Julia and comments that it's good they didn't find Uru's dwelling. Suddenly, Lucas looks up. He alerts about an enemy attack from above, while a winged creature advances. Mina rapidly casts a storm spell. The enchantment hits the creature squarely. The threat is neutralized and falls to the ground. Then another monster appears to attack Mina. She turns to face the new threat, but Kai positions himself in front of her and blocks the blow with his magic shield. He then warns them to leave the close combat to them. Kai defends against the creature's attack with his shield. Then Lucas enters the action and faces another monster, leading Kai to shout his name. Lucas warns him not to steal the scene and challenges him to keep up with his speed. Meanwhile, Maya creates a water spirit barrier and states she'll handle the support. More winged creatures approach and surround the group. Mina observes the situation and comments that it's been a while since she felt this team coordination. She turns to Julia and explains that the magical beast dislikes wind and lightning magic, indicating it's her turn. Julia starts chanting an enchantment with her staff, concentrating for the spell. She invokes a barrier magic. A large barrier forms, trapping the flying creatures inside. The imprisoned monsters are hit by the enchantment's power. Near where a creature was defeated, Lucas comments that Julia's lightning magic still has incredible power. Kai approaches and calls for Mina, who remains silent. Julia then turns to the senior and asks if she had said something. Mina replies that it was nothing, but she had underestimated the capabilities of those pawns. Maya heals Kai's hand. He calls her a goddess, but she brushes off the compliment. She thinks goddess is exaggerating, yet she wishes Lucas would say it. Lucas watches her, confused, as she questions her own thoughts. Then, the group enters an enormous cave. A staff illuminates the path ahead. Julia marvels at the sheer size of the place. Mina points out an even larger, deeper area further in. Kai also notes that a small army could march through here. Lucas deduces the cave was excavated. The underground must be crawling with magic beasts, making the path dangerous. He warns everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, a group of goblins charges them. Julia casts a spell at the creatures. The goblins are hit square on by the attack. Mina explains that since their vision is poor, she neutralized their hearing with thunder. The group is safe. Kai prepares to fight another monster, but she warns him they can't defeat every beast that attacks. Kai announces he has a good plan. A little later, the group gets into position. He runs toward the monsters, yelling for them to chase him. Then, Julia and Mina prepare their spells. Kai looks back for an instant. The two girls launch their combined attacks. The magic strikes the group of creatures dead on. A massive explosion occurs. Lucas comments on the plan's efficiency. He wonders if Kai is also a reincarnated person, comparing the tactic to area of effect attacks in games. Kai explains his idea was to lure the enemies in, so Mina and Julia could wipe them out at once. He turns to Lucas and says the technique is only possible thanks to his equipment. Lucas replies that he shouldn't think everyone is just looking for attention. Thanks to Kai's suggestion, the group steadily defeated the magic beasts. Maya uses her magic to heal him. They gradually approach the center of the lair. Lucas observes his teammates. Lucas asks them to wait and give the others a rest, but Maya comments that Kai is pretending not to hear. Kai runs back, yelling that he brought the enemies and the rest is up to them. He then looks back and realizes everyone is gone, asking where they went. Lucas says that although it's his fault, they'll have to sacrifice their teammate since he's running out of magic power. Julia wishes Kai happiness in the afterlife. Maya claims she will save him if he's still breathing, but Mina advises her not to take it seriously. Suddenly, a loud sound echoes through the cave, making Maya look up. She asks if the noise was Kai. Lucas replies it came from the center of the lair, where the exploration team likely found the boss. Mina suggests they should go check the situation. Lucas advances a little and remarks that the smell in the air is very heavy. Then, Mina offers Julia a recovery potion she brought from home. She says they probably won't need to intervene, but they should check just in case. The group moves forward and comes across a scene of intense battle. Mina realizes the entire exploration team has been defeated and orders an immediate retreat. Lucas turns sharply. A giant creature emerges from the rubble right in front of them. Mina turns sharply to the side. Then, a giant creature charges at her with an axe. The creature draws closer. Mina wonders why a minotaur, a calamity-class monster, would be here. Lucas realizes something is wrong. Such a strong monster shouldn't appear on a school mission. Still, he recognizes that presence. He shouts for Mina to watch out and pushes her out of danger. The Minotaur's axe comes down hard. Lucas creates a magic protection. The creature's blow is blocked by a wall of ice. Julia runs to help Mina, while Lucas asks if she was the one who conjured the ice shield. He turns upon hearing her negative reply. Mina points out it was the person in the Minotaur's hand. The man being held attacks the creature, asking if it is the one standing in his path. The group watches, shocked that the man saved them even while so wounded. The man asks them to call the Imperial Army. He then reveals that the ancient seal has been broken. The creature squeezes its hand tightly. The Minotaur threatens to destroy everyone. Julia and Maya react to the scene. A potion falls from the man's hand to the ground. Julia turns in the direction of the sound. The Minotaur approaches the fallen man, but he uses the potion, saying the monster is the one talking nonsense and must be defeated. An enormous mass of ice appears and traps the creature. The man then asks them to flee and report what is happening. Mina and Julia agree and start to fall back. Lucas turns and promises to return to avenge him. The man screams for them to flee while they still can. Trapped in the ice with the creature, he believes he has done all he could. Then the Minotaur frees itself, questioning how an insect dares to attack it by surprise. The creature prepares to attack the man, saying he will be the first. Suddenly, an attack hits the monster. Julia attacks the Minotaur with her staff, asserting that the man is not an insect, but a great warrior. Mina also advances and launches a wind bomb. She questions why they are attacking instead of fleeing, since the man risked his life to buy them time. Then Lucas says he will hold off the creature and asks Mina to go report the situation. She responds that it's impossible for a freshman like him to face a calamity-class monster. Lucas just says it won't be easy. A large rock falls from the cave ceiling. The Minotaur threatens to end them all. Lucas insists that the others flee and leave the monster to him. But Mina pushes him and yells for him to retreat, stating it is her duty as vice president to protect everyone. He observes her and thinks she is braver than he expected. Julia refuses to flee, and Maya reveals she sent a request for help to Kai, suggesting they all fight together. The creature lets out a roar. Even with the combined attacks, Mina realizes they won't be able to win. Lucas turns to her and asks her to believe in everyone. Staring down the creature, Lucas affirms there is no way they will lose to a monster like that. The Minotaur advances and strikes the ground with its fist. Lucas prepares for the confrontation. He then lands a direct punch on the monster. Mina asks him to continue the distraction so she can attack an opening, and he agrees. The creature gets irritated and calls them little pests. The monster prepares a new attack against Lucas. Lucas looks back and sees that Julia's magic is ready. She then screams for the Minotaur to leave her brother alone. Julia launches a powerful attack against the creature. The monster is hit. He launches an attack right at the monster's face. The creature roars in pain. Lucas yells that he hit the weak point and sealed the monster's movements, ordering them to attack now. Julia then prepares her thunder arrow. Mina also prepares to launch her wind cutter. Mina and Julia cast their spells at the same time. The two magical attacks advance against the monster, but the Minotaur manages to resist. The creature complains in frustration. Then, it threatens to defeat everyone as soon as it recovers. Maya steps forward and says she won't allow it. She then launches a large sphere of water at the creature. The water attack hits the Minotaur squarely, but the monster remains impassive. The monster's leg heals, and it dismisses the attack as a simple splash of water. The Minotaur advances toward Mina, promising to defeat her. Julia asks what happens when someone is electrocuted while wet. She declares the Minotaur will pay for what it did to the soldiers. The creature is then electrocuted. A huge magical explosion engulfs the Minotaur. Lucas understands that she soaked it with water to amplify the power of the electrical attack. The Minotaur finally falls to the ground, defeated. He observes the group and comments that creating a strategy like this completely improvised is expected of an honor student. Climbing onto the creature's body, Lucas announces he will deliver the final blow. Mina watches him, confused by his attitude. Suddenly, dark energy explodes from the Minotaur's body. She wonders what that mysterious pressure is that Lucas also feels. A dark, threatening figure manifests before him. Outside, Kai reacts to the disturbance coming from the cave. He wonders if the tremor he feels is an earthquake. Then Kai decides to call for reinforcements immediately, asking the others to hang on tight. Dark energy explodes, taking the shape of a demonic creature. Lucas reacts to the enemy's overwhelming power. A shockwave hits him head-on. The monster charges, knocking him to the ground. Lucas realizes it was just the creature's voice that hit him. It's gotten stronger. He turns and asks if everyone is okay. Mina casts a magic circle of silence for protection, but the effort drains her energy. Along with Maya's and Julia's, they fall unconscious. Lucas looks at his fallen companions. A new energy begins to radiate from his body. The demonic creature roars. Lucas charges and punches the monster. He declares he will defeat it. Lucas lands a powerful punch. He hits its arm with massive force. He lands on the ground, realizing the monster feels no pain. Lucas watches intently. The creature's arm begins to rebuild itself from dark energy. In moments, the arm regenerates completely. The creature attacks with an energy blade. The wind pressure forces Lucas back in pain. He realizes he underestimated the impact of the previous roar. The monster remarks that the resistance of the strong excites it. The creature punches the ground, creating a massive shockwave. Lucas manages to dodge the attack. Then, the monster's hand transforms into a sharp blade. The creature speeds toward him. The monster delivers a powerful blow, shattering the cave floor. Lucas sees falling rocks heading toward the others. He throws himself in front of the debris to protect them. Lucas manages to deflect the falling debris. He stops a large rock about to hit Julia. Then he turns to the monster even though he's injured. The creature prepares for a new attack. The monster fires an energy beam from its mouth. Next, it creates shockwaves with its hands. Lucas realizes the roar's power is amplified by the rock wall. He positions himself in front of his fallen companions. The force of the attack hits him full blast. Then, the creature moves in to deliver the final blow. The creature wonders what he could possibly do, making Lucas reflect on why he is there. The monster continues speaking menacingly, but Lucas dares it to say that after he's beaten it. He declares that as long as he's alive, he'll never let the monster touch Julia and the others. He charges forward and stops the creature's blow with his bare hands. The impact drags him backward, but he resists and breaks the monster's blade. The creature reacts to having its attack blocked. Lucas advances and strikes with the broken blade. The monster retaliates with a powerful punch, but Lucas manages to dodge and counterattack. The creature grabs Lucas and starts dragging him on the ground. Lucas breaks free and forcefully pushes the Minotaur's arm away. Lucas's body begins to shine intensely as he prepares to fight back. The Minotaur's arm regenerates and readies for a new attack. Lucas charges with an energy strike that collides with the Minotaur's. They trade blows, causing a massive explosion of debris and rocks. Lucas turns to the creature and says he's going to end this. He faces it with determination. Then, he delivers a blow to the Minotaur. The creature reacts with surprise. Lucas continues the attack, striking the Minotaur's chest with immense power. On the ground, Julia begins to wake up. She sits up and asks if they are still alive and where her brother is. Her eyes widen at the scene before her. In front of her, Lucas stands over the defeated creature.